Hey, welcome to the Churchfront show, and this is attempt number 2 at our stream. I think we are functional, so it's great to have you guys here. If you are on YouTube watching, or maybe you're listening on the podcast later on, this show is all about talking worship ministry and tech ministry. I think it would be fun to have a regular show so we can all just kind of like stay up to date with the latest happenings and trends. And for our inaugural episode, we're going to be talking about just the trends that we are kind of predicting, the trends we see coming for worship ministry in 2021. So so great to have you guys who are watching or listening live in YouTube. If you're listening to the podcast later, be sure to subscribe to the YouTube channel so you can join in on these streams when they happen. We're doing this on a Thursday. Maybe we'll do them every Thursday. We really don't know. If you guys really like this type of show, we will continue to do it, but if not, we probably will not. So we've got a list of topics that we are going to dive into today. I've got Adam. Adam is a worship leader, tech ministry leader. He's one of our coaches in worship ministry school. So he helps a lot with what goes on behind the scenes here, especially for the coaching of our clients. And for those of you guys on the live stream, towards the end, I think we're going to be going through some Q&As and stuff. So feel free to drop questions in the comments. We'll see those there on YouTube, and we'll talk about them. But the topic of today's video, like I said, the title is worship and tech trends for 2021, and let's just dive right into it. I think one of the biggest things we're going to see happening, we're already seeing it happening, is the takeover of the M1 Mac computers. I actually already have a few of these computers. I've been using them for a couple months now, and you know, Adam, I was getting a little salty about Mac the past few years. I was not super hopeful about the future of Mac. I kind of felt like, man, they're such a big company. They're not really innovating that much anymore. They only care about the iPhone and selling as many of those as possible, which I think they still do care about that. But I kind of felt like, as a longtime Mac user, I got my first MacBook Pro back in 2007 or something like that. I was a junior in high school, and that's when like it was cool to like get a MacBook Pro for the first time, right? And then been using it for a long time. Always been great for video editing, creative work, and then eventually church production, right? A lot of church production machines out there are pretty heavily dominated with Macs. And then I felt like in the past 5 years, just the issues with new MacBook Pros, especially, and the processors, like they would overheat. They were like just being really slow and bogged down. And it's like, it's 2018, 2019, now 2020. And I feel like my computer really hasn't changed in the past 5 years in terms of performance power, maybe even 10 years. I have a 2012 MacBook Pro still, the first like solid state Retina display computer, and that's actually, other than the battery being completely shot, you have to have it plugged in all the time. The computer actually works pretty great as a quad core, 16 gigs of RAM. But I just felt like there wasn't that much of an evolution. And the keyboards too. The keyboards were just horrible, right? Gosh. Mac went through that whole fiasco. So then this past year, 2019, I was like, okay, I need more computing power. We're doing so much video editing here with Churchfront, and I wanted to just have a more powerful machine, especially to start editing 10-bit video. So, you know, for you guys listening, there's different video codecs, like different types of ways you can capture information with your camera in different files. And I've gotten some cinema cameras now for what a lot of what we do at Churchfront. And if I put a 10-bit video file into Final Cut Pro on a Intel Mac, like I can't play it back in Final Cut Pro maybe for like 2 seconds, and it just starts stuttering, and it just won't work, right? I have to transcode everything into proxy files. But then here's what happened. Finally, what was going to happen? I was going to purchase like a Mac Pro. I was like, unfortunately, I think I need to drop like $10K on a Mac Pro to like have efficient editing workflows. And there was times I came close. I built out my MacBook Pro so many times in the Apple Store cart, and I'm like, well, especially when June of 2020, they announced Apple Silicon was coming. I was like, I gotta wait. I don't want to drop $10K on a Mac Pro and then 6 months later, they come out with an Apple Silicon, and it's a complete game changer. And that's what happened. That's like they came out with that, and I'm like, okay, there's the Mac Mini, which is super affordable. Not even just in Mac pricing, but even any computer pricing. I feel like when you're starting at like $700 there, it's insane, you know? And I think the Mac Mini I end up getting, the one I'm using right now, was around $1,200 or something like that. I got 16 gigs of RAM, and I got a terabyte of storage. And let me just go ahead and put your screen up there, Adam. Yeah. So I got the one that had the 16 gigs of RAM, terabyte of storage. That's the Intel Mac right there. So that one's not even it's the top two.
Oh,
yeah,
wow.
those ones. So I went to the one that was on the right, and I went that route for my Mac. So I spend like $1,200, which is crazy. And then I get it. And of course, the first month of it was, I got it in like right before Thanksgiving. So November through December, it was definitely a headache waiting on certain updates to happen on my regularly used devices and plugins. Like I got the Aero Universal Audio Interface that I'm using right now, and like that had no support for it. And I want to be clear to everyone right now, it's still in the early days. Like, don't expect to get an M1 Mac in for it to just like work, work perfectly right now, because there's still other developers that have to update things and make it work. But for me, I like being an early adopter. I like diving in and just like giving it a try. And then what's cool is, I loved it so much. So the speed of it, like I can put 10-bit video in Final Cut Pro, and it just like, I have Final Cut Pro in full quality mode. So I'm not viewing anything that's transcoded or proxy, none of that. Like the raw XF AVC video from my C300 10-bit, and it just plays seamlessly and flawlessly. Now granted, if I were to do like a major multicam like with that much footage, like maybe I would have to start transcoding things more, but the performance is phenomenal. And I think this is what I'm seeing, all the other YouTubers are just blown away. The other ones who have picked up this computer, they're also blown away, just same as me. Like, yeah, like this, I can't believe for the price, the performance and speed that we're seeing. So I like following Max Tech, his channel. He's got a lot of great stuff that on like the benchmarks and all that stuff. I'm not really that much of a nerd about that type of stuff, but I just know I open Final Cut Pro. It's really quick and snappy. It exports quickly, renders quickly. So much better. So all that said, I just think Apple has turned like over a new leaf, or it's in a new chapter now for Mac, a really major one, that I have a lot of hope for the future of their computers. And then for worship and tech ministry, especially like now, like it's honestly hard to come up with the argument anymore where it's like, oh, I don't go the Mac route because it's too expensive. Like, well, it's really not. For a Mac Mini for your worship, like your tech production setup now, a Mac Mini with a decent monitor, like you're talking about $1,000, man. Like that's like it's a decent chunk of change, but like I don't even know how many PCs you can really get that same amount of power for less than that. So
Yeah, I mean,
I think there's lots of opportunity.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I was looking at PC builds when I was figuring out how do I get a machine that runs ProPresenter 7 well, and it was probably like $1,200. I thought I saw Cody in the chat. He might be able to chime in, but that's what I was feeling. Yeah, he said that they have two. So Cody's a guy from ProPresenter, and he says they have two Mac Mini M1s for their church launching. So.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that they've been like, hey, Windows works great and it's cheaper, but now it's same price or even probably less.
Yeah, no, it's incredible, and I really don't think that now that I'm looking at my levels too here, first show you guys get to see us adjust some things here. I think my gain could be, I think my voice could be a tad hotter, or yours a little bit quieter here. So, but. Yeah, guys, like this stuff is such a game changer, and I'm excited. You guys will be seeing some videos here pretty soon where I'm going to start testing it out more with Ableton Live, with ProPresenter. I already know I've heard a lot of good things with ProPresenter. The no Dante support from Audinate, that's a good point Rich brings up in the comments. That is going to be one of the big things where it's like, Audinate, please hurry up. Please make this just work as quickly as possible. It's just like, man, like that, and that's what I was talking about. It's like there are developers out there where some things are kind of out of their control, like especially if there's like multiple layers of like their, you know, suppliers or whoever having to update things. I don't know why it takes so long. Audinate especially, like I feel like for Dante to be really reliable, you need to be running like OS Lion from like 2008 or something like that. It's like Audinate does not support Big Sur, but we do support like whatever the like High Sierra or something like that. I don't know. It's just like, come on guys, like let's get up to the times. But and plus, if I again, I don't know what it's like being a software developer, but I feel like didn't they have like well, maybe not. Maybe with the M1 Mac specifically, they weren't like getting enough test computers out there for people to actually try out, or developers to work on. Like they could work with developer versions of Big Sur ahead of time after they launch it in June, but maybe they didn't get the actual hardware of the new computer. So I don't know, but I think this is a big trend I really foresee happening over the coming months. I do think if you're in the market for a new computer at your church, I would encourage you to go to the M1 Mac, but with the caveat being like, be ready to kind of maybe have it to jerry rig certain things about it until the compatibility is fully there. Especially something like Dante is huge. Our systems highly depend on Dante for networking, and that's just a deal breaker for us. You know, if we're not able to just get audio from one place to another. So what are your thoughts, Adam? Actually, dude, I think, you know, we were talking about getting you one of these computers soon. I'm almost tempted to send you the MacBook Air. So that's what I'm using right here. I got the M1 MacBook Air now. Oop, in the camera. Oh, you know what? I can just use my little video switcher here. So this is the M1 MacBook Air I just got. And it's crazy. Like I was coming from a MacBook Pro, like a 2018 MacBook Pro, and just simple things. Because I don't do a lot of creative work on this MacBook Air. More of it's like Google Docs, Slack, email, coaching on Zoom, and stuff like that. Very, very simple, and it's just so much quicker and snappier. And the battery just like lasts forever. It's like every 5 days, I'm like, oh, I should probably charge it now. Like it's just, and that's with like light use. You know, most of my creative work is on this Mac Mini that I use on my desktop computer. But the MacBook Air is like when I'm at home and I'm feeling inspired to script a video or something like that. So I foresee MacBook Airs, once you get the full support from like Ableton for your tracks and like for your keyboard rigs and even MainStage. Well, I'm sure MainStage support's fully there. I haven't really tried out the Sunday Keys template or anything like that yet. That would be interesting to do. So many different things we could do or so many things to try out here. So I highly encourage you guys to like, I would avoid buying an Intel computer if possible, and maybe if that means if there's key updates that you want to wait for compatibility, maybe just wait for it a little bit longer. Give it another 2 to 3 months if you have to, and then get ready to buy a new MacBook Air. Not MacBook Air. I would say Mac Minis for most tech booths, church tech booths. The MacBook Pro, like you have there, the 13-inch, that's great. I would kind of wait, though, for the 16-inch MacBook Pro to come out if you're a portable setup. Because that's the other weird thing, too. They haven't come out with a 16-inch MacBook Pro. I've seen the rumors about the M2 chip or whatever, the M1X or whatever they're going to call it. Like, it's going to be also super powerful. I just feel what's cool as a creative is Mac has taken this leap ahead where now, like, I feel like the processing power they can supply to us as creatives, as production folks, now exceeds what we even need to get our job done well. That's what I feel like is happening. Whereas the past 5 years, I felt like processing power was way lagging behind. So,
yeah, Yeah, I just put I think it was like 64 or 32 gigs in like the old Mac towers. Um and these only come with 16 gigs is what you can max it out on, but I think it's like a different type of RAM,
Yeah, I think
right?
everything is way more because they completely control that process. And there was a good video I watched one time um, about the difference between ARM chips and that's what these new M1 chips are, ARM chips, and I forgot what the Intel chips are called.
Neutral
Um,
engine or
some neural engine, I don't know, something like that,
yeah.
right? But and again, I'm not an expert at those. Look on YouTube. I think Cold Fusion had a good video on this about kind of the evolution. Like, why did it take so long for ARM chips to become this type of become what it is now with Macs? Like, it's kind of becoming, because there's also Macs. I think AMD also does ARM architecture or whatever. Like, however that works. So it sounds like it's just so much more efficient, causes a lot less heat, like saves battery, all that stuff. It's so tightly integrated. So I don't think, like, for most applications you're running at one time, I don't really think we really need 16 gigabytes, more than 16 gigabytes of RAM. At least unless if you're like doing really heavy graphic stuff.
Yeah.
So
One thing, I don't know if this is gonna be a continued trend. I've enjoyed using the Intel Nooks and like these smaller PCs, but like no matter what you get, like you have to get some sort of adapter, some sort of like dock or eGPU unit. I think we both have the Cal Digits Thunderbolt docks for like extra IO
yeah.
ports and
Yeah,
whatnot.
that's my one big complaint. You're right, is it needs 4 Thunderbolt ports, or 3.
But
2 is not good.
what's up with this? Look at the space.
Yeah,
I guess I'm not a
plenty.
design engineer, but
Actually, I think I did see something somewhere, because of the new chip, there's some sort of limitation that you can only put 2 Thunderbolt ports. I think. I'm pretty sure. Don't quote me on that, but I think that was the reason. Like, there's some sort of physics hardware issue that they can't get past. So that would have been cool if it would have had 10 gigabit Ethernet port, but that's, like, again, because we're using a more creative environment, editing a lot of like stuff. So I have a Thunderbolt to 10 gigabit Ethernet connector that I can use. But like right now, even with a Thunderbolt dock, like, I'm maxed out on my ports, specifically Thunderbolt ports, because all of my devices are that. And yeah, that was my problem. I have a Thunderbolt CF card reader, so I can't even I'm not even able to plug that into my existing Mac Mini right now. So that's my one big thing, is Apple, please put more Thunderbolt ports on these things if you can.
yeah. I don't know. Is this it? No, this isn't it. I just saw a video on a new OWC for USB-C ports. This is not it. I think it just came out.
Yeah. Nice. So, well, I feel like we've exhausted this first new trend we want to talk about. We actually have a lot more to talk about, and we've already been
Yeah.
chatting for 20 minutes. So who knows? I think we'll just have to do this more. It's great to see you guys here. I think we got like over 170 folks on the stream, so it's awesome to have you guys here and listening along. And while we're transitioning here, I want to remind you guys to check out worshipministryschool.com if you want to have access to all of our training, and as well as our in-depth support. Adam's one of our coaches there, and Adam, isn't it cool, like, what we can do through like Zoom software to be able to like remotely control some of our clients' setups, and to be able to help them troubleshoot things, help them configure things. So even though we don't travel, we don't come to your church physically, just being there like virtually, helping you dial in things, it's pretty insane what we can do from
Yeah.
remotely. So we've got the hybrid of the online courses. We keep updating, building that library out, and then of course we also have the coaching portal. And Adam, you've probably have the record of the most coaching calls. Like, Adam's our tech coach,
So,
so he's probably done the most of those calls. And if there's ever been times where you guys are like, man, I just wish I'm just running into this like weird thing I just can't figure it out on my own. Instead of spending 12 hours trying to figure it out, like you can just hop on a call for 12 minutes with ATEM and it's like, boom, it's pretty much fixed. And it's fun. The issues that our clients come up with and students in worship ministry school, like it's kind of fun to see new problems because then we kind of learn about new things to fix. And then we can kind of put that in our repository of like random things that could go wrong with an X32 or ProPresenter or Ableton or whatever, right? Like we can file that away and then it can help out the next person even quicker. So worshipministryschool.com. If you guys hit that green get started button there, you can fill out a quick application form. You're going to hop on a strategy session. We want to get to know every single person who joins our program. We want to get to know your goals, your ministry, your church. And then from there, we can kind of recommend the best way that we can actually help you out. So the strategy session is completely free. Hop on the call, apply, and we'll see you guys. We'll see you guys there. So, okay, the next big trend. Let me pull up my notes here that I want to talk about. It's funny that Mr. ProPresenter himself is here on the stream himself. I'm not even sure if he's still there. But Cody, if you're still there, give us another shout. But this is the next big trend I see in 2021 is ProPresenter is going to begin dominating the entry, even a little bit beyond entry level live streaming setup for churches as the standalone solution that's going to really allow churches to have obviously the great presentation stuff that ProPresenter has been known for all the time, to have lyrics and scripture and all the stuff that our congregation needs to see during worship. But now with their streaming functionality that they implemented they started it about 6 months ago, I think in the summer of 2020, and it was pretty bare bones, pretty rough. But that's what I love about ProPresenter is they're just like one of those companies that are like, hey, we're not going to like work in secrecy for like ever and wait 10 years to release something new. We're just going to like we're going to build it now and quickly and be agile about the whole thing and let our users speak to it, and then it'll quickly get better. So then now I really think 6 months later, it's a really viable option, potentially one of the best options for beginner live streaming setup. So having, you can, and here's kind of my ideal setup that I'm thinking for a lot of churches that would work well. You have ProPresenter. It's going to run your presentation stuff, right, for your service. Make sure you get a decent computer. Like we talked about these new Macs. Get like a Mac Mini. Get, a nice display for it. You might want to get a Thunderbolt expansion chassis, so then you can use like a Decklink Duo and stuff like that, have some more outputs to work with. But let's say you have ProPresenter and then you have an ATEM Mini. I don't think you need to get the ATEM Mini Pro. And again, I'm still diving into it. Things change so quickly that 6 months ago, I was kind of like ATEM Mini Pro, ATEM Mini, kind of overrated. To me, it doesn't. It's cool what it can do, but it's not really. It's not the best option for a lot of churches out there, because I think there's some better, more reliable, and better setups you can go with. And now things have changed, and now I actually think the ATEM Minis and ATEM Mini Pros are worth the hype when you have an option like ProPresenter, where now you can have the ATEM Mini sending its video feed, and you can put 4 cameras up into it, right? And you don't. What's cool is now that ProPresenter has the lyrics and display you can overlay on the video, you don't have to, like, your video switcher doesn't need lyrics and lower thirds and presentation from another source. So you can truly have with the ATEM Mini, 4 camera angles, which is plenty enough. Like, it's plenty for most church environments, I think. Like ours is 3 right now. It'd be cool to have a 4th one, but it works great. It keeps it visually dynamic, and you can have a tight shot, wide shot, side shot, another side shot, roaming shot, whatever, right? And I think that paired with then a couple of these like entry-level mirrorless DSLR or cinema cameras, right? Like that's a really solid setup. That's like, I think it's even not even fair to call it entry-level, perhaps a little bit above entry-level. Because the other big thing is the Resi functionality, right? The resilient streaming protocol. And that's one of the big things. Beyond, ProPresenter's done a good job, I think, just updating their software and like making tweaks, listening to users so that it'll be functional as a live streaming video switcher and encoder. That's what it is. It's a software video switching solution that conveniently you can overlay graphics and stuff. And then now partnering with Resi, having the resilient streaming protocol, the thing about software encoding I get really iffy about is that like I would rather have I guess technically it's all software encoding, right? Even if you have a Ray encoder like we do, it's an Intel Nuke, it's a computer, but it's its own dedicated hardware, right? I guess that's the thing is like I get kind of iffy about even Ecamm right now. Fortunately, Ecamm's working great, but I don't know if something could go down or I could lose internet connectivity and our whole YouTube stream could probably go. Whereas like when you're using Resi, they have that resilient streaming protocol that's going to pull the stream from ProPresenter, put it on a little bit of a delay buffer, and then you're sure that number one, the way that it gets encoded, it's going to be in a high quality way that doesn't like really deteriorate video and audio quality. And then number two, it's going to actually get delivered to your audience and not buffer even if you have some issues there. So now I feel like the beginning of 2021, we've kind of, now that they have the Resi compatibility and all this stuff, like I think we've begun this shift where less and less we're going to see churches using OBS, vMix, even Ecamm Live. I love Ecamm Live, but I love all these applications. I think less and less we'll see that. And more, I think they're going to go to ProPresenter to be a more cohesive streaming setup. And I'm also trying to think of the downsides of that too, because sometimes you got to think of the team stuff, like in the downside of having ProPresenter run everything, because if it crashes, then you're kind of out of luck, right? Like it's the whole stream is just down or whatever. And sometimes diversifying the apps you use can definitely make things a bit more reliable. There's more points of failure, I guess, but that can kind of be a good thing in a way. The other thing though to consider, and I know Cody, I don't know, did Cody hop in the chat again, or is he still there? Okay.
Yeah,
so the other thing I think Cody was talking about is some guys can use some guys can like or some setups, some churches, guys and gals, it can use two computers running ProPresenter on both, right? And maybe you have a presentation ProPresenter computer that is like, you have one person, all they have to do is that, and then you have another computer running ProPresenter for your live stream. And that could actually be kind of theoretically cool, right? Because you could have one person on one computer running the lyrics and stuff like that, or you could just automate it because it's 2021. You can automate these things now. And then the other computer runs ProPresenter for streaming, and kind of like someone could, but then again, and that person could have like their ATEM to cut angles, video angles, and then you could run Ableton, Pro Tools, Logic on that computer to also mix for your stream. So then you can kind of have like two stations going. But at the same time, I think you can actually do it all on one computer. The other thing you have to think about is what's your ideal team workflow and setup that you're going for at your church? Do you want this to be a one person operation, 2-person operation, whatever you think. So I don't know. I talked enough about that, but I think it's exciting. I think ProPresenter is going to dominate in this space. I remember Cody asked me in the spring of last year, he's like, what's the one thing, this was like when COVID was hitting and all this stuff was going down. He's like, what's the one thing you wish ProPresenter could do? And I was like, streaming. That was it. Cause that was when I was first getting into like, yeah, you have to, get Ecamm or OBS or vMix and then get NDI from ProPresenter to go into the video switcher. And it's just like lots of moving parts going on. The other thing too that's great about ProPresenter is it's got all the MIDI automation and functionality built into it as well. So even if you're not fully automating with Ableton like what we do at my church, like you can still set up cool systems, I think, in triggers within ProPresenter to like be like, because that's ProPresenter. All it is like it's a queuing system of like when you hit this slide, cue this, and that cue, right? Or remove this cue or do whatever, right? Like that's what it is. It's really powerful at doing that. And I just think there's cool opportunities there. So.
Yeah, I haven't looked at I was just thinking through this. I haven't looked at the automation. But I'm wondering if you can even I'm guessing you can automate looks from MIDI too, which is.
I think so. Yeah, you can. You can put a look cue on a slide in ProPresenter so that when someone clicks on the slide, So, or if you're MIDI triggering that slide, right? Whatever happens, as long as the slide gets hit, it will then trigger another cue. It can trigger a look in ProPresenter.
Yeah.
You know, and you could have a repository of cues kind of in the bottom of ProPresenter that kind of like, you know, but templates in a way that could just like throw up different looks and stuff like that. So very, very good work that you guys are doing there, Cody, at Renewed Vision. Keep it up. Lots of cool stuff. And then, you know, the other thing too, the thing about Resi I love is like the automated streaming, like how the stream just starts at a given time. Like that's just like a little thing, a simple thing, but I don't know. It's nice. Like nobody in our church setup has to wait for, you know, 9 or 8:55 a.m. to come and then hit start stream. Like that just doesn't happen. It's all automated. So the same automation you get with the hardware encoders, you can do it with the software encoders through Resi. So that's it, man. That is I would say another big trend I foresee happening here, and specifically the tech world. Moving on, you know, I think the third big trend is like pandemic life is not going away quickly, even with vaccines coming out. So I think for us as worship ministry leaders, as much as we want to think like, oh, we're just going to get back to normal soon. And I know it's different. It's different in different states. I know some states are like, we've been doing live in-person services since like, you know, May, and we've been fine, right? You know, like if you live in like free states like Florida or Tennessee or Texas. But for those of us who live in the not so free states of, you know, Colorado, California, other places, and it's not like I'd say that tongue in cheek, you know, I definitely have, I don't get political much on this, but I have more libertarian leanings of smaller government, let local communities kind of figure it out on their own. But it's been interesting to see some of the legal battles in states where churches are, you know, they basically, well, the courts are ruling as they should that, wait, the state cannot tell like the church to not meet, right? But so like, you know, they can put guidelines out, but you can't like, the certain laws around that are just pretty crazy. But so I know in Colorado, we are meeting and it's, I don't know, I think, but everybody's being pretty conscious about it. And plus, most people, regardless of the regulations or guidelines out there, like most people are just kind of paranoid about, you know, wanting to be in large groups of people. And I don't see that going away anytime soon, right? That's just a reality that we got to face. So the online stuff is still going to be important in improving that. If we're going to continue to move things forward for our ministries as worship leaders, we still got to be growing in these areas. I'm still trying to up my game in this still every single day. I don't know. We're in this weird time. I really miss the way life used to be, and I think we're going to get back there eventually, and maybe not exactly the same, but I just don't think it's going away anytime soon.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and you know, oh, go ahead.
No, you go ahead. I was just going to kind of move on to the next point here, but
yeah, that's what I was going to say. Like with this being our reality and people just like being accustomed to fearing large groups, it's like this streaming stuff is definitely, you know, sticking around. So people are going to want to continue growing and doing it better.
Yeah, I think we're going to transition from, I think we're going to see a lot of transitioning. This is kind of the next trend because of the situation with the pandemic. We're going to transition from more scrappier, quick setups that people had to put together in 2020. And now a lot of churches were kind of thinking through, you know, budgets for 2021. It's like, okay, how do we streamline this? How do we up the quality? You know, how do we just dial in our skills, right? Because it's one thing to have gear, but, you know, it's not gear that's going to help you solve an overexposure problem or a framing problem or something like that. I guess we can go back to this video. Sometimes I forget to switch our video here on eCam. Sometimes it's both the infrastructure that needs to be improved, and then also you have the skill sets that have to be developed to do these things right. Because a lot of churches did invest in good gear last year, but they're kind of at the point where but they're not really using it to the best of their ability. A lot of them have digital mixing consoles. They got decent cameras, but it's like, That's if gain isn't right, if processing and mixing isn't right, if exposure isn't right, like it's the end product is going to be 50% of what it could be quality wise. So that's why, another plug from our sponsor, Worship Ministry School. Reach out to us, guys. We can help you, and we got worship leaders hopping in the program every single day. It's a ton of fun helping them out and helping them get like real tangible progress in these areas. So that's that. Okay, my next trend: more worship ministries are going to transition to mixing in a box. I jokingly said more worship ministry leaders are going to take the red pill and start mixing in the box, because it's just I really believe. I mean, you can get decent mix from an X32, like a digital mix bus, right? That'll sound okay. People can hear it. It'll be clear. Again, the important essentials of mixing, they have to be there. But I think more ministries are going to move towards that. Because the thing about when you mix with a sub mix on a digital mixer, or if you just mix with a digital mixer, that's what it sounds like. It sounds like you're mixing on just a regular digital mixer. And it's just not like, the thing is you're not able to, again, there's some guys I think who have certain levels of mixing skills that are way up there, but like, especially when we're talking, maybe just tech volunteers or something like that, maybe the skill level isn't there to really dial it in and be really attentive to it. To me, mixing in a box using Ableton, Pro Tools, or Logic to mix for your live stream is so much more forgiving. And I think it's a way easier setup to set your volunteer up for success, where a lot of the work that they have to do once you get your template dialed in, like a lot of the work they do from week to week is maybe just, is really just controlling like who's leading the song, where's this instrumental solo, and bumping the faders accordingly, or muting and unmuting things as they need to be muted and unmuted. So that's what I foresee there. I don't know. What do you think, Adam, though? Have you drank the mix in a box Kool-Aid?
Yeah, don't you remember the Waves LV1 system video? I mean, that's
true. That is the ultimate Kool-Aid to drink of mixing in the box.
Yeah, and I mean, I think I even shared in that video, like, I remember I was in like high school and I was like doing a live show. I was like, I'm gonna mix in Pro Tools, like, so
you were
I
mixing in a box before it was even cool, man.
Yeah. I mean, there was latency and it was a little bit weird, but like it worked though. It really did. Like I was able to do all my EQ and compression with low latency plugins, and yeah, and what you said about like being able to set it up ahead of time for volunteers, like I mean, I had a guy that like listened to music, like he enjoyed music, but he'd never mixed before, but he understood like this is where an electric guitar needs to be in the mix versus a vocal versus a kick drum, and one pass through of a song, and he had a great mix going, and it was because we had presets pulled in. And I think you can do the same thing, even if you aren't a mix engineer. Like everyone and their mom is making mix templates. Like you can go anywhere and find a mix template for Logic, for Reaper, for whatever DAW you're using. We use Ableton. We've made Ableton templates, but yeah, you could even just like buy one of those templates and hand it to a volunteer, and it's still going to be 80% better than mixing out of a console.
Yeah. In our situation at Mission Lakewood, what I've done is, we have a backup mix bus from our M32. So like if something went haywire with Ableton during the service, which we haven't had that issue. I have another funny story about things going haywire. Usually it's my fault, like just accidentally unplugging something in the middle of a service. That happened this past Sunday. But the broadcast mix template in Ableton, that's been going very smoothly for now 4 months, right? And that same computer is running ProPresenter and ATEM control software and lighting software. It's like Ableton's so efficient, and that's why we love using it. And we have the backup solution. So like if anything happened, we can just pull a mix, a bus mix, a post fader bus mix from the board that pretty much mirrors whatever the master mix is in the room. But when I was comparing those, like I can just kind of do an A/B, like listening to like, here's what the bus mix sounds like, here's what Ableton sounds like. It's just like a world of a difference. And like the thing about the bus mix is like I'm so limited in tools to like in processing to to accomplish certain things that I'm doing in Ableton, that you're not limited because you have unlimited plugins and tracks and buses and all that stuff that you can create virtually. That's what I really love about it. So
Yeah. One other thing
yeah.
too is the mastering, like being able to like get your real stream mix up to the volume that needs to be, and compress it the way it needs to be, because a lot of times you get those board bus mixes and they're just not anywhere near the volume. You can't do any like real mastering that well on them.
Yep. Cool. Well, that's the other major trend is more. I think we're going to see more mixing in a box. And what's cool, again, I think you can. Man, most of us have digital mixers installed. Again, X32, SQ5, PreSonus, whatever you want to call it. And then we've got, you can run Ableton on the computer. I think you could even do it as the same computer as ProPresenter or whatever. You just make sure it's a beefier computer the more things you're running on it. And then you could even just use something like the Loopback app to send your mix from Ableton into ProPresenter for your stream. So that's kind of what I'm envisioning. I'm kind of piecing together like what's this ultimate portable but very high quality streaming setup. Like those are kind of the elements that I would be pulling together. So I'm going to be making a live streaming setup 2021 video here pretty soon. That's going to be kind of walking through all those things. So cool. What's the next thing we're going to talk about? Okay, this is the next one that's more of the pastoral side of worship ministries. We got to figure out how to better pastorally engage people online. I think congregations are kind of getting worn out with church online, and I think when I say we, I mean like all, I think collectively the church, we just got to figure out how to do this. I think there's probably are some churches doing a great job at that, and it would be cool. I think I need to find more of them and kind of highlight what they're doing, but it's just like, how do you, it's already hard enough like for worship, even live worship, to not be just a spectator sport, right? People showing up and just watching on Sunday. And of course, like it's easier for them to, even depending on how much they participate in the service, at least they can engage with the community when they're at the church. Cause you just, unless if they're really introverted, they're just like in the door, out the door. Right. But most of the time in a live gathering, you have way more opportunity to actually have that community and interaction. In online, it's just hard because like and I don't know, maybe it just never really will get to that level where you really ever have that same level of intimacy that you do live in person or connection. But I think there's things we could do better, like maybe more intentional chat, moderation, engagement, having a designated person for that during the service, maybe having like a Zoom room that's open, during the service time where it could function as kind of a virtual foyer or lobby or something for your church where like people could hop in and be like, hey, how's it going? Just like wanting to hear from each other. I don't know. The hard thing about Zoom like that is like only one person can like communicate at a time to everybody else there, and it's kind of awkward. So I don't know.
We've done that at my church. My church does a virtual lobby. So it's a Zoom room in between our two online services. So we do like a 9 and a 10:30 online. So between the service, like people will hop on that were at the first service, so they'll get on there before they go to the next one. And it's gone well, and it's like a cool opportunity for people to like see each other's faces and hear each other's voices outside of just like.
How many people hop on those at a time?
I think like 10 to 15 maybe.
Yeah.
So I don't think it's like unmanageable. It's not like crazy where there's just like a ton of people.
Yeah.
But
that's what's hard about it. It's like it's hard in those environments where even if you have 10 to 15 people, like we had some family who we hopped on Zoom over Christmas, and it's like extended family. There's like 20 of us on there. But like only, again, it's that awkward part of like only one person can really communicate at a time to like someone else, or then everybody else is listening to that one conversation. Whereas when you have a real gathering, it's like, oh, we can all break off into pairs and then keep intermingling and stuff like that. So that's what's kind of weird. Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that Life Church has done a lot of training on like how to be a good online host, and I've seen trends of online campus pastors. Like that was already a thing before the pandemic with churches that were doing more online, but now I've seen a lot more hires in that area, I guess.
Yep. Yeah, it's something people are definitely more intentional about. I see some feedback in the comments. Folks using Zoom seems to be working pretty well. So that's awesome, guys. But it's just something else for us to keep innovating and keep working on. If you guys ever come up with ideas of what's working well, of course, go to our Facebook group at Churchfront and share them there. It'd be cool to see them, cool to know them. And we're always looking for things like tech tours and things like that. So definitely let us know if you're like, hey, come look at our cool and unique broadcast setup or whatever. We're looking for content and things to feature. Doesn't always have to be like, doesn't always have to be mega church. Of course, like we all love geeking out over those humongous systems that we all look up to. But at the same time, we sometimes even more love geeking out about more accessible gear setup that's available out there. So that a lot of you guys have at your churches. So yeah, lots of exciting stuff there. And then, okay, so those are kind of the major worship tech trends like that we wanted to touch on. And then one cool article came up. Maybe you want to pull up. Adam had the Facebook group up there. It's right here, guys, if you want to go and check that out, join it. We have 6,500 members right now. So Adam, Go ahead and you can pull up that Carey Nieuwhof article. This is kind of an article worth reading for all you guys. 8 disruptive church trends that will rule 2021. The rise of the post-pandemic church. Such an epic headline there. But he, I think he talks a lot about stuff like the majority of attenders may no longer be in the room. So here, I'll put the screen there for you. Majority of attendees may no longer be in the room anymore, which is interesting. I mean, that's kind of the way it is now. I'm trying to like think through this. I know from my own personal preference, like I love live. There is something about live in-person worship. I think it speaks to the incarnational aspect of our faith and like having people together in a room. Like I still think that's going to be really important for a lot of people. It still is. Like I don't think that's going to go away anytime soon. I don't know if I would agree with the majority of attenders may no longer be in the room. I don't know if I agree with that point. Like I think if you're not in the room, at least on a regular basis, like twice a month, maybe some people come once a month, like you're probably going to be checked out the rest of the time. That's my guess. What are your thoughts?
Well, here's a clarifying question, I guess, is does it mean in the room or a room? I know we're gonna touch on it later with.
Well, he's got like the micro campus strategy. Okay, so gather. Okay. Yeah.
So if you're talking about the room as like here's the one giant gathering place that we all want to be together in, I mean, yeah, that might be true, but
well, here's the thing. That's why I don't know. Like I still feel like there's a lot of things like when you have the internet. Why do we have movie theaters? Why do we have coffee shops? Why do we have just these? I think there's so much about being human that requires like that we love being together and having these live events, and that's where I'm like I don't know. Like I think the online stuff is obviously important to have a part of what you're doing and try to figure out how to do it better. I think it also functions more effectively as a front door for people to like get into your church community and then eventually find their way in person. I just feel like people are craving the in-person stuff. Like it was so nice when the restaurants were open here in Colorado. Like they reopened in the summer, but they shut back down for like all of December. And now they're open again. It's like, I love this. I love going to a restaurant. It's just like I'm not even an extrovert, but I still love the ability to do that, right? Same thing with coffee shops. Same thing with movie theaters. Like there's just an experience you get at a movie theater, watching a movie that you just can't get at home. Like I just watched Wonder Woman 1984 the other day, and like it was like watching it on just a flat screen TV at my in-laws house, and it was a pretty horrible movie anyway. Like it was not a very well done. It was just like, okay, it's like, I don't know, the first Wonder Woman was much better. This one, like whoever wrote the story of this one was like, I don't know. I feel like I could have wrote a better story than that. But it was just like, man, I just love theaters. Or that's why Tenet, the movie Tenet, did you watch that yet, Adam?
Mm-mm.
That was in theaters, and I watched that when that came out, like back in the fall. And I would not want to watch, I mean, I want to watch Tenet again because it requires to watch it like 5 times, I think, to fully follow it and understand it. It was like that cool of a movie. But the cinematic experience is so important. I just think like there is something to be said for the live in-person experience we have as a body of Christ. I think there's something valuable there. I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I completely agree. I feel like, even as a church leader, I just feel disengaged with the online experience, which is why, yeah, my hope is more of the microsite thing. I really hope that becomes a thing, because yeah, as humans, we're built for connection with one another. So
Yep. Well, and I still think I think there's like this, I don't know if it's like nostalgia people have or whatever, but people really appreciate a sense of place and location and consistency that's there. Like there's a reason, I could live anywhere in the world, but I like living in Littleton, Colorado, and there's just like, there's something about the local church building parish that is like, it's kind of like a nice, like pillar in the community, right? Like that. It's just, I get, and here's the thing, because here's I guess the point I'm trying to get to is like, I appreciate like innovative thinkers like Carey Nieuwhof. I like to think along the same lines too, of like, yes, we need to get online, we need to get better, but I just don't think we need to throw the baby out with the bathwater with being like, hey, nobody's going to show up to physical gatherings anymore, because that's just not, I don't think that's true. I still think there's plenty of opportunity to continue to have like awesome in-person worship gatherings for your church. And to me, one more point, it shows a bit more passion, devotion, motivation to be part of the whole thing we call church. Like if you're actually like physically going somewhere at a certain time to be with other people, then, there's part of the online thing is like the convenience consumer culture. That's like, let me just be in my pajamas, whip it up on the couch or whatever, and just like consume it the whole time. Whereas like when you're worshiping live, it requires active participation in worship, in what we're doing. In worship is not, I think, the problem. Worship has kind of become a commodity in the modern era, but it's, and if we got to be careful, like we got to keep pushing, like, no, this is not a commodity. This is a transformative experience that the body of Christ needs to be a part of. It's formative to who we are, our theology, our mission, all that stuff. And that's why, I don't know, some of it, this is where some of these things I disagree on with Carey Nieuwhof here. Let's just skip to point number 3. We don't have to like go through all these super in depth, but like growing churches will shift their focus from gathering to connecting. Well, yeah, I don't know. Like it's like that was number 2, but it's like some of these points I'm just like, well, duh. But I feel like we always are kind of have been focused on connecting anyways. And there's different ways to connect, like, virtually or other smaller off Sunday events and stuff like that. And that's great. Churches should already be doing that. Number 3, some pastors will try to fill auditoriums while others focus on fulfilling the mission. So this is where I think I would push back on him. I get the spirit of what he's trying to say here, and that there can be this obsession with filling auditoriums. But the part where I'll push back is that, okay, when we fill auditoriums, it's not just filling auditoriums. It's we are worshiping together as the corporate body of Christ. And then you have to get into theology of worship and what exactly is happening. Like, why do we do that? Why is it important? And I would argue that the worship that we do is so integral to the actual mission. It kind of like, it helps us. And there's a lot of great theologians who have wrote a lot of great stuff that talk about how worship propels us into the mission. And yeah, people can like worship on their own or whatever at home and listen to their favorite Christian album and stuff like that. But I also feel like that's a skewed ecclesiology that people have, like detaching worship from the body of believers at the church. So I don't know, I could go off on a whole rabbit trail tangent about this. But
Yeah.
but the thing is, the reason I don't mind putting some attention on numbers in the room is because it's a key metric that, at least it's not the final metric that matters, but like it's at least a key metric to help you understand at least how you're doing, like in terms of like, yeah, people are showing up on Sunday, so at least the first hard part of like leading them to like be here, to be a part of worship, at least that was accomplished. Now the next key thing we have to do is how are we helping them or leading them to Christ and seeing life change from that? Like how are marriages getting healthier, parents like being, healthier, relationships getting better, how are people deepening their relationship with Christ? Like those are other things. Again, it's probably harder to measure because that's not just a number, but you can't really have all that stuff if there's nobody there. Like, so, and I just think the online thing in the world is so hard to like actually like have people's attention in a meaningful way, not just I'll listen to this sermon podcast way.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think one thing that is like since the beginning of time has been the importance of storytelling in seeing stories. And that's how Jesus shared like all of his knowledge is through parables, right? And so like if we can somehow get people to share their experience and their stories instead of just like hearing us talk about it, I think that's one way that could definitely get engagement up and remind people of the importance of what we're doing.
Yep. Yeah, and like there's a tweet that he had here, full auditoriums do not guarantee a fulfilled mission. And I think that's a true statement. I just, again, it's like, it doesn't mean we should give up on trying to encourage people to like come to church and be a part of worship. So there's that one. And then the next one, growing churches will see the internet in their buildings differently. So what do you do with your building? So this is a good one. I really wholeheartedly agree with this one. So the way we use the building could be more effective. Like I think churches should view themselves as live gathering, a venue for live gathering, like however many people they need that attend on Sunday. And then, also they have to view it as like it's like a hybrid of like a production studio and a live gathering venue. And like, we have to design things for both of those purposes. And I think a lot of churches discovered this past year that like, yeah, it's a great live gathering meeting space, but like from a production venue standpoint, to be able to capture those gatherings and broadcast them, like they probably fall short in a lot of ways with the infrastructure, not good lighting, not good stage design, not the right sound system and stuff like that. Right. So that's kind of, I kind of keep coming back to trying to help church leaders see that even their worship sanctuary now, it's still a sanctuary, but it's also it's a studio as well.
Yeah. I've seen a larger church in my area do that really well. Like they're like, okay, we're doing stuff online. Like we have these, different rooms. Like let's take one of these rooms and buy some of those, like the light that's behind you, some studio lights, and use some of their cameras that they were using for live services, and get some audio like baffles up in the room, whatever. Like let's just convert this room into a space that we can do studio productions from, and it just like made a big difference.
And get it set up so it's going to be efficient, right? Because if this is something we're going to keep doing forever, and that's something that we're actually learning here at Churchfront. I just got some new gear in today. I'll talk about it a little bit later, but like we want to up our efficiency game. So that means using like kind of having more video switchers, more cameras, more stations set up, so that, for pastors out there, if you know that online content creation is going to be an important part of what you do, then you really should just build the right systems so you can just walk in the studio, hit record, and then boom, it's like done. Because all of this post-production editing work that's being done, like multi-camera editing in post or stuff like that, that can be eliminated with the right systems in place. And then you'll get so much time back to, instead of editing and being in Final Cut all the time or Premiere all the time, you'll be able to spend more time like making better sermons or making music or like the original work. Editing is like such a drag to do. And I'm trying to, even in our Churchfront workflows, eliminate as much as we can of that. So
Yeah, I think content is still king, but if we can have it done well, it helps.
Yep. Yeah, then in terms of like some other points he made here, yeah, content alone won't cut it. Community connection will. Yep, definitely agree with that one. Generational differences will become clearer than ever. The political and ideological churches will lose influence with the unchurch. Yep, definitely already happening. Spiritual entrepreneurs will thrive. This is where it's like, you know, I feel like Gary Newhoff is singing my tune, you know, because it's like I kind of consider myself spiritual entrepreneur, but like I'm not, you know, I'm building Churchfront. I'm not building a church. I've kind of had aspirations of someday like start an actual church, and who knows? But maybe that'll come sometime in this decade or the next. Who knows? But I think this is a good point. It's like now more than ever, we need entrepreneurship in the church and staff roles. And I know a lot of you guys listening to this and watching it, like, I want to encourage you, keep it up. The church needs you more than ever right now to innovate and build and create. And I think, you know, it's hard though, like Gary Newhoff alludes to in that article. He's like, there's like an overload of shepherds in terms of like when you talk about the leadership positions, and there's different, some are to be shepherds or pastors, some are to be prophets, some are to be evangelists, some are to be apostles. And he alludes to that. I think he alludes to the, he talks about how the Apostle Paul was a spiritual entrepreneur. And we just need that more than ever. And I think we need more of these spiritual entrepreneurs. I think even starting churches, because even with a lot of church plants these days, I just think a lot of the old techniques that, and I say old, I mean maybe worked 10 years ago, I feel like things need to be innovated now for 2021 that probably didn't work, that worked well in 2010, but I think they got to be different now. So all you guys, you know, I don't know, if you're feeling like that itch to like go start something or try something, just do it, try it. I would encourage you, make something happen. Don't wait for permission to make it happen. I mean, pray about it and like seek some wise counsel, but like, I think the church needs more spiritual entrepreneurs. All right, man. That's the article. Go check it out, guys. Just search Gary Newhoff, 8 Disruptive Trends That Will Rule 21, the Rise of the Post-Pandemic Church. Okay, guys, time for the next segment of the show. We are going to call it New Gear Time with Jake and Adam, or something like that. I just want to talk about some new gear I've been getting, kind of explaining why, and just maybe give you guys some ideas if you're looking for similar things. So first thing I got was the Allen and Heath SQ5. Pull it up for us, Adam. I finally got one of them. It's actually this box right here. So I have a PreSonus, and then I have an X32, and now I have an Allen and Heath. I still got to take it out of the box, but I am really excited about this mixing console. It's going to be kind of we got it so we can help develop more training around this console for clients and stuff, because this is becoming like one of my favorite go-to recommendations now for churches. I still think X32, M32 is great. Allen and Heath ecosystem is a little bit more pricier, but even though not if you get like the compact one, like the SQ5, right? Similar price point, probably cheaper than the M32, I think. You just don't have as much hardware. So it's a great board. It's got Dante capability, all that fun stuff. We're going to use it for like courses, and then we're going to be using it kind of as our main audio interface for any production needs we have here in our studio. Because that's what, I moved into this new studio this year. You guys can kind of see behind me. I'll probably do like a tour of it sometime soon. You probably see in my YouTube videos, different backgrounds, but like we got a new studio. Really happy with it, more space to work with, and we're really investing now into Churchfront to be able to like make content more efficiently and quicker, so we can just keep up with the times and spend less time editing. I'm getting too old to edit, Adam. Just getting tired of it.
Yeah.
Oh man. So we got that going on, and then the next piece of gear I had is actually the camera. This camera that I'm using, I picked up a couple days ago. This is the Sony A6400 mirrorless camera with a Sigma 16 millimeter 1.4 lens. So I really like it. This is kind of like my new webcam setup, and it's on a Manfrotto Magic Arm on my desk, and looks great. I love it. Autofocus is great. Color's great. It's really simple. And the other reason I got this beyond being a webcam camera for what we're doing right now is I think this could be really a great camera for a lot of churches building those initial live streaming setups. I'm very much in favor of getting these mirrorless cameras that have sensors that are bigger than camcorders, so they're going to capture light a lot better. It's going to look a lot better. So I think check out those Sony mirrorless cameras if you guys are looking for some great budget-friendly setups, because I think that camera, yeah, Adam's got it up right here. It was, I think the body itself was like $900. I think that package he has is like another $100 lens. And I got a telephoto lens for it to kind of experiment. So because my thought is like, if you're trying to build a simple streaming setup, listen to all the things I talked about earlier in the show, and then with the cameras, get like 2 or 3 of these cameras, and you'll be set to go. This will look so great. Because to me, my opinion, this $1,000 camera, actually less than $1,000 camera, it's going to look so much better than some of these other like more expensive camcorders or PTZ cameras that have really tiny sensors. And it's kind of funny. Speaking of this, I'm going to go off on a rant. Someone, we get random tickets that come in through our email inbox, and someone's like, Jake, you seem really biased against PTZ cameras and small sensors and stuff like that. Like, all you need to do, is you just have to give it more light to work with. And the guy's right. Like, yeah, like, and that makes sense. Like, if you're a church that has lots of light in the room, very bright ambient light, or just like everything's like really bright, PTZ cameras can look good. You're still going to struggle without having any sense of depth of field to the image. You just can't get around that because of sensor size and physics. But yeah, you can solve issues like that with light. But what's cool about these cameras with bigger sensors and better lenses is like, you can have less light in the room, which allows you to do more dynamically with your stage design and lighting design and color and all that stuff. A lot of the time, if I were to just, like right now, if I were to turn on all the lights in this room, yeah, the camera, I could stop down on the camera, and I could make it so I could adjust the exposure. It would have plenty of light to work with, but it looks like doo-doo, right? But here I'm trying to like have an intentional setup where it's like, I've got good lighting in front of me. I've got the warm lights behind me and this other cooler key light behind me. And so I'm very intentional about that stuff, and that's why I want cameras with bigger sensors. And I think a lot of you guys will have better, more pleasing images for your live stream when you have bigger sensors and better lenses. So don't try to work against physics. You'll always lose in that case, right? So, yeah, so I've got that. And then the next thing, production studio 4K video switcher. So this is part of our pursuit here at Churchfront, and all of it's fun. All of it just came in today or yesterday. It's all in boxes right now. So our goal is to have a moving video rack that allows us to, kind of have like one central video switching hub in the middle of our studio, and then we'll have cameras from our course station go into it. Eventually we'll have a podcast station, and anywhere else. And then we can just easily, cut kind of as we go, kind of like how you cut a live stream. That's kind of the workflow we're going for. So, and of course, what's great is I think like, yeah, if you're a church, wanting to have 4K capability, we're not doing much streaming in 4K right now, because I don't think any of the platforms even have that functionality. Plus it would have to require lots of bandwidth to do that well. But maybe you want to record locally in 4K, and then you could upload later in 4K. You know, a switcher like this could give you that ability. So we have that switcher, and then we've got the HyperDeck Mini to be able to capture, that can capture in 4K to an SD card, and then hopefully that will dramatically speed up our workflows here. So really excited, guys. I'll do a tour of it. And again, it's like, I'm excited because, yeah, it's going to make my life a lot easier. But I think, like, it's kind of funny, like a lot of what we're doing here at Churchfront to build an online content creation studio, a lot of churches could do the same exact thing. And everything we're doing it's on a pretty reasonable budget. Like, it's insane that, you know, when you could just compare prices of these video switchers and cameras to the same specs. You didn't even have the same specs 10 years ago, but the price was just astronomical. So now it's so much more accessible. So that's the new gear that I've been getting. And then I wanted to highlight another piece of gear. It's called the Behringer Flow 8. Maybe Adam, tell us a little bit more of the details that you see there in the description. I think it's an 8-channel audio interface and mixer, right?
Yeah, and it says, I was reading out earlier, it says Bluetooth, and as far as I could tell, the Bluetooth part of it was the fact that you can control it with an app.
Yeah.
Which I thought was a little deceiving. I was like, oh, there's Bluetooth audio on this thing? As far as I can tell,
maybe it does have a Bluetooth audio input. I don't know. Maybe. Who knows?
Yeah, it says it gives you control. Not only does the app provide remote control via Bluetooth, it gives you access to the assistance features and do snapshots. So that's pretty cool. When I first saw it, I was like, this looks like a podcasting thing. Mm-hmm. Or like if you just wanted to do like, you know, house church, like, you know, you could easily give this and like have someone play cajon and a couple of vocals and guitar and plug it all straight in.
And you could still mix in a box. You can still mix in a box. Because think about how cool that is to be able to like have this tiny of a setup, and maybe you have a pastor mic and a couple vocalists and a guitar and a piano. Like, I'm pretty sure you could have enough channels for that, and you could have your live, you know, it has outputs for your live speakers for people in the room, and then you could then create a really nice separate mix for this kind of lighter acoustic session in Ableton. And then that same computer could run ProPresenter for your live stream and presentation. It's like that's like incredibly compact. Yeah, I think it's a robust setup that could actually sound really, really good.
Yeah, it looks like it's. I mean, I really like the design of it. It kind of reminds me of the Wing that came out. It looks like the same kind of, even like the buttons and the font and the design of it looks very much like the Wing. So it says studio quality preamps. So it's the same ones that's in the X32 and the Wing series. And it says it has 2 Midas preamps. So those must be different. But reverbs, delays, modulation even. It's a pretty cool device, and that like this price point is pretty nuts. Like looks like you can
$250. It's insane. Well, that's when I was like going and I picked up an ATEM Mini the other day I haven't even taken it out of the box yet, but like I think that was like $250, $300, and it's like basically a video capture device for your cameras, and you can have 4 of them, and it's like no wonder Blackmagic stopped making the Ultra Studio Mini recorders. I'm pretty sure you can't even pick one of those up new anymore. Maybe you can, but like it's the Thunderbolt cable was outdated and all that. And I think the reason they like discontinued it because it's like now for the same price or a tiny bit more, now you have 4 video inputs with the ATEM Mini. So it's like, it's crazy. It's cool stuff.
Yeah. Did you pick one of these up?
Not yet. I can't. Well, it's on pre-order. You can't even get one yet apparently. So I think I don't know how I get who I need to reach out at Behringer to see if they want to send something, but yeah, because I think Cade from Collaborate Worship I think has a video on it.
Oh, yep. Yeah, it looks pretty cool.
Yep. So, all right, guys. Well, that is it for the show. Like, I would love to hang on here for a lot longer. And I think what's kind of cool, what I was seeing, is you guys answer each other's questions, which is really awesome. So keep doing that. That's very helpful for the community. Also go in the Facebook community. Such a great place to get your questions answered about things. And thanks so much for joining us for the kind of inaugural episode here of the Churchfront show. I think it's, again, all things worship and tech and just the stuff you guys know that we are about and we geek out about. And let us know your feedback on it. Did you enjoy this? Let us know in the comments. Should we do this once a week? Maybe once a month? I'm not really sure yet, because we could bring on some other guests. The vision is for, again, when Adam, we're trying to move him here to Colorado to be on our team, to be local. He's in Illinois right now. If any of you want to move to Wheeling, Illinois, right? That's where you're at. He's got a home for sale that we could hook you up with. We need that thing to sell quick so he can get out here. But our idea is to have like a local studio where we can do shows like this, where you guys can, like, we can just talk about more recent events and happenings, and it's kind of like a news show for the Churchfront community. So, just let us know how you guys like that. Anything else, Adam, before we sign off?
No, I mean, well, I guess one thing was, you were talking about community, and I feel like one thing that is awesome about the worship ministry school too is the community of the Facebook group there.
Yep.
And like, we don't have all the answers. Like, we don't have all these different kind of Windows computers and setups that other people have. I've seen it on this chat. I've seen it in the Churchfront group, but in worship ministry school too is like, it's an awesome part of it, is the community of people. Like, oh, like, I just the other day I saw someone like, hey, I don't know how to do this thing, and someone was like, I'll make a video for you showing you how to do it. So that's been really awesome. Definitely keep that up, Churchfront community.
Yep. Go join that community. Check out worshipministryschool.com. We'd love to see you guys on a free strategy session soon, talk with one of our coaches. And keep up the great work. We'll see you guys next time.